You know why people die from drugs and alcohol? I do. Because just like every sin, it starts out as fun. There's nothing like the first time you get high, or the first little buzz you get off those first couple of Millers when you were 16. The only problem is you'll spend the rest of your life trying to feel that feeling again, and you'll never get there. You can devote your life to trying to recapture a single moment in time that you'll never make. You can raise the dosage, you can increase the volume, you can do it more often, and it makes no difference. You'll never get there. You've started a downward spiral that you'll never recover from. Not on your own power anyway. When I was 18, I was a young man with a lot of promise. I was intelligent, I was talented, I was going away to college on a scholarship, and I had the world ahead of me. It took me 18 years to get to that point. It took the next 18 years to destroy everything that I'd worked for the first 18. By the time I was 36, I was broken and I was hollow. I had turned my back on the God of my youth, and I had sought solace in everything that the world had to offer. I actually wound up self-employed because I was unemployable. Even my friends couldn't give me a good reference. If you asked them, they would say, yeah, I know him. He's a pretty good guy, but, and the but was always the problem. But he's a drunk, but he's not reliable. One fateful day when I was 36, I got a phone call one morning. And this pastor from a small church here in Cleveland was having a problem, and they needed some help, and I'd been referred by one of his members. So I went over and did what I could to help the folks. They were in the middle of a revival and needed some help before church started that night, and I was able to take care of their needs. And this little guy wouldn't send me my check in the mail. He wanted me to come and pick it up myself. He wanted to personally thank me. I pretty much knew it was a trap, but I went anyway. And I walked in and met the guy and instantly liked him, because he wasn't like so many of the people that I had turned away from. He wasn't like the church that I had walked away from. He was real. He was walking and talking what he believed, and I was impressed by that, and I liked him instantly. That was strike one for me. Strike two was after I talked to him for a while, I found out we had real similar backgrounds, that we grew up in the church, and we had a background with God, and then at 18 we went away from home and left all that behind. Strike two for me. And he asked me if I would visit his church that night, and true to form, I lied to him and said that I was really busy, but I would try. And I had no intention of making my way back to that place that night. And I went to that church that night, and I met some really, really nice people who were really happy I was there. And I found me a nice quiet little spot on the second row from the back on the left-hand side of the church. And within 10 minutes of the service, I couldn't wait for the guy to shut up so I could get up to the front. When I went to the altar that night, I was surrounded by people that didn't know me, men that crowded around me and laid hands on me and stayed there and prayed with me for what seemed like a long time. So I had a lot that I needed to talk to God about that night. But they stayed there with me while I confessed my sins, and while I just cried out to God to save me from the hole that I dug in my life. By 31, I had lost my family, my house, my job, my car. I had very little of a relationship with my son. I even lost my dog. And at that time, I crawled in a vodka bottle, and I stayed there for almost 6 years. The only time I was sober was when I was at work, or if it was my weekend with my son. That was the point I was at the time when I reached that altar. I had nothing in my personal life. All I had was my work and my drink. But When I walked away from that altar that night, I had the same skip in my step, and I had the same lightness of being that I had had when I first gave my life to the Lord when I was 9 years old. And that was the first thing in 36 years that I had found that was as good the second time as it was the first. And it's the only thing I found in 51 years that gets better every time you do it. There is nothing I can compare with walking with the Lord. I can wrap up my testimony in probably 2 sentences. The crux of it is you cannot go so far. You cannot sink so low. There is no physical act that is so perverse that the Lord will not find you. If you will turn your face toward home and make one honest, repentant step toward Him, He will run to meet you. He will pick you up, clean you off. He'll give you a breath mint, put a new coat on your back and shoes on your feet, and order a party in heaven because a son or daughter has come home. If there's anybody that struggles with worrying about what you are at this moment, that you're not good enough for God, that you're not worthy of His redemption, you never will be. There is nothing you can clean up. There's nothing you can fix. There's nothing that you can do that will make you worthy of His redemption. Anything I am, anything I will ever amount to is because of Him in Christ Jesus. For He has become our wisdom from God. That is, He is our righteousness, our holiness, and our redemption. And it's because of that forgiveness that He has, and it's because of that love that anything I have and anything I am is because of that forgiveness and because of that love. What little success I have in life I owe to Jesus, because He brought me up out of a pit that I had dug for myself and I couldn't find my way out of. And I'm a shell of the promise that I had when I was 18 years old. Now, at 51, I'm not so strong and I'm not so young and I'm not so smart. I killed a lot of brain cells over those years. And I've wasted the talents that He gave me on the world. But whatever I have, whatever is left out of this, is His for the rest of the time that I breathe. And I know that our God has always made a habit of creating something out of nothing. And I want to be the nothing that He uses for that.